The screaming stopped 3 cycles ago. That should have been our first warning. Commander Vex 9 pressed his 4-fingered hand against the observation deck's reinforced glass, watching the human female pace her containment cell with predatory grace. Specimen designation, Subject 77. Real name, Maya Cross. Age 28. Earth rotations. Height 5.6 Earth measurement units. Weight 127 Earth mass units. And the single most dangerous entity currently aboard Research Station Omega-7. Sir, Lieutenant Krell's voice cracked through his vocal translator. The Science Council is requesting an immediate status report. Vex 9 didn't turn from the window. Below, Maya Cross had stopped pacing. She stood perfectly still in the center of her cell, head tilted upward, staring directly at the observation deck, at him, through 3 layers of supposedly impenetrable barriers. She smiled. Tell the Council, Vex 9 said slowly, that we have a situation. 3 weeks ago, acquiring a human specimen had seemed like the opportunity of several lifetimes. The Galactic Science Consortium had been studying these strange bipedal creatures from the 3rd planet of Sol System for exactly 47 cycles, ever since first contact protocols had been established. Humans were fascinating, unpredictable, violent when cornered, yet capable of startling acts of what they called compassion. The perfect test subjects. Maya Cross had been selected from a mining colony on the outer rim of human space. A volunteer, supposedly. The humans called it a cultural exchange program. What they didn't know was that Subject 77 would never be returning home. Dr. Zenth 4, the station's chief xenobiologist, had been particularly excited about this acquisition. Humans possess unique psychological resilience, he had explained to the research team during their initial briefing. Their capacity for adaptation under extreme stress conditions is unparalleled among known species. We will push this specimen to its absolute limits and document the results. The experiments had begun immediately upon Maya's arrival. Sleep deprivation studies, sensory overload protocols, psychological manipulation techniques designed to break the subject's will and render it compliant for further testing. For the first week, everything proceeded according to established parameters. Maya responded exactly as their behavioral models predicted. She showed signs of stress, confusion, growing desperation. She pleaded with her captors, demanded explanations, threatened consequences that seemed laughably empty coming from such a small, confined creature. By the 2nd week, her responses became more erratic. She would spend hours in complete silence, then suddenly burst into what humans called laughter, for no apparent reason. When questioned about her behavioral changes, she would only respond with phrases like, "You have no idea what you have done, and this is going to be fun." The research team found these responses intriguing, but not particularly concerning. Many species exhibited similar psychological defense mechanisms when subjected to prolonged stress. It was noted in their reports and filed away. The 3rd week was when things began to deteriorate. It started with the automated food delivery system. The mechanisms that had functioned flawlessly for over 200 cycles suddenly began malfunctioning whenever they approached Maya's cell. Dispensers would jam, nutrient solutions would spoil, temperature regulators would fail. Dr. Zenth 4 dismissed these incidents as coincidence. "Equipment failures happen," he had said with typical scientific confidence. "We are dealing with complex machinery operating in a controlled environment. Statistical anomalies are to be expected," but Vex 9 had been a military commander before accepting this research posting. He recognized patterns that scientists often missed. The malfunctions weren't random, they were strategic, systematic. Almost as if someone was learning the station's vulnerabilities and exploiting them. Someone who had been studying her captors as intently as they had been studying her. The first death occurred on day 19. Research Assistant Plex 2 had been conducting routine psychological evaluations when the containment field suddenly failed. The emergency protocols should have activated immediately, sealing the cell and flooding it with sedative gas. Instead, the backup systems triggered a complete power failure in that section of the station. Maya emerged from her cell like a predator that had been waiting for exactly this moment. She moved with precision and purpose that suggested extensive planning. In the 3 minutes and 47 seconds it took for emergency teams to restore power and containment, she had somehow accessed the station's central computer core. When security forces arrived, they found Plex 2's body. Cause of death: severe trauma to the cranial region. Method: blunt force impact using a standard research tablet. Maya was back in her cell, sitting calmly on her sleeping platform, humming what humans called a tune. How? Vex 9 had demanded during the emergency briefing that followed. How did she access restricted areas? How did she bypass 17 different security checkpoints? How did she know exactly where to find the computer core in a facility she's never seen before? Dr. Zenth 4 had looked uncomfortable for the first time since the project began. The subject may have been gathering intelligence during the early phases of containment. Humans possess remarkable observational capabilities. It's possible she was mapping the station's layout through audio cues, vibration patterns, air circulation sounds. Possible. Vex 9's voice had carried the edge of command authority. Doctor, we are not dealing with possibilities anymore. We are dealing with facts. Fact 1. Our supposedly secure containment has been compromised. Fact 2. We have a hostile entity loose on this station. Fact 3. That entity just demonstrated intimate knowledge of our systems and infrastructure. The investigation that followed revealed the scope of Maya's activities during her supposed captivity. Hidden within the station's environmental monitoring systems, they found evidence of systematic data collection. Just one had been accessing personnel files, station schematics, security protocols, even personal communications between crew members. Maya Cross hadn't been their prisoner for the past 3 weeks. She had been their student. The second death came 12 hours later. Dr. Vel 8 from the Psychological Research Division was found in his laboratory, apparently killed by his own experimental equipment. The official report listed the cause as accidental exposure to neural disruption field. The unofficial truth was far more disturbing. Security footage showed Maya had somehow convinced Vel 8 to modify the neural interface himself. She had talked him into connecting the apparatus to his own nervous system, then guided him through a process that resulted in complete cerebral shutdown. She had literally talked him to death. Sir, Lieutenant Krell's voice interrupted Vex 9's recollections. Dr. Zenth 4 is requesting permission to begin immediate termination protocols. Vex 9 finally turned from the observation window. In the 3 minutes he had been lost in thought, Maya Cross had somehow acquired a small piece of metal that definitely hadn't been in her cell before. She was using it to scratch marks into the wall, mathematical equations, circuit diagrams, what looked suspiciously like structural weakness calculations for the exact type of containment barrier currently holding her. Tell Dr. Zenth 4, Vex 9 said carefully, that termination protocols are temporarily suspended. Sir? Krell's confusion was evident even through his translator. But the Science Council's directives clearly state that any specimen showing signs of excessive resistance should be eliminated to prevent further complications. Lieutenant, look at that creature. Really look at her. Vex 9 gestured toward the containment cell. Does she appear to be showing signs of resistance, or does she appear to be showing signs of preparation? Below them, Maya Cross had finished her calculations. She looked up at the observation deck again, held up the piece of metal so they could see it clearly, then casually tossed it aside. It struck the containment barrier with a small bright spark. The lights in the observation deck flickered. She's not trying to escape, Lieutenant. She's not even trying to resist anymore. She's planning something that requires her to remain exactly where she is for now. Vex 9 felt a chill run through his circulatory system, and whatever she's planning, I don't think we are going to like it. The intercom system crackled to life with a burst of static, then cleared to reveal Maya's voice. Somehow, she had accessed their communication network from inside a supposedly isolated containment cell. Hello, Commander Vex 9. Her voice carried an unmistakable note of amusement. I think it's time we had a proper conversation. You see, I have been doing some research of my own during my stay here. Very educational, really. Did you know that your people have been conducting experiments on captured humans for almost 50 of your cycles? 47 different research stations, over 3,000 subjects. Quite an impressive operation. Vex 9 felt his primary heart skip a beat. That information was classified at the highest levels of the consortium. How could she possibly know? Oh, and Commander? Maya's voice continued with what humans called cheerful inflection. I have also learned something fascinating about your species' psychology. You are remarkably predictable when you are afraid. You make the same mistakes over and over again. You assume that superior technology makes you superior beings. You believe that physical containment equals actual control. The lights in the observation deck went out completely. Emergency power kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. You wanted to study human resilience under extreme conditions, Maya's voice echoed through the darkened room. Congratulations. You are about to get a very personal demonstration. Lieutenant Krell was already reaching for his communication device when Maya's next words stopped him cold. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Lieutenant. You see, I have been monitoring all of your communications for the past 18 hours. Every message you send, every report you file, every panic signal you transmit. It all goes through me now, and I have been making some interesting modifications to your outgoing data streams. The realization hit Vex 9 like a physical blow. What have you done? Oh, nothing too dramatic. I have simply been sharing some information with a few interested parties. Your research data, for instance. Complete files on every human you have ever captured, experimented on, or killed. Detailed schematics of all 47 research stations. Personnel records. Communication protocols. Everything. Maya's voice paused for effect, then continued with what could only be described as predatory satisfaction. I sent it all to Earth 12 hours ago, to their military command structure, their intelligence agencies, their news networks. By now, every human in known space knows exactly what you have been doing to their people. They know where you are, they know how many of you there are, and they know exactly how vulnerable your stations really are when someone understands your technology better than you do. Vex 9's secondary heart began racing. That's impossible. Human technology isn't advanced enough to decode our communication protocols, to hack our computer systems, to track our hidden facilities. Maya's laughter carried through the intercom with chilling clarity. Commander, you have been studying us for 50 cycles, and you still don't understand the most basic truth about humanity. The containment barrier around Maya's cells suddenly flickered and died. She stepped out casually, as if she had simply been waiting for the right moment to leave. We don't need superior technology to destroy you, she said, her voice now coming from directly behind the observation deck's reinforced door. We just need to be smarter than you think we are. And honestly, that bar was set pretty low. The door exploded inward with tremendous force, sending fragments of metal and composite materials across the observation deck. Through the smoke and debris, Maya Cross walked into the room like she owned it. She was no longer the confused, desperate prisoner they had captured 3 weeks ago. This woman moved with the confidence of someone who had been planning this moment for a very long time. Someone who knew exactly what she was doing and exactly what was going to happen next. Now then, Maya said, settling herself comfortably in Commander Vex 9's chair. Let's discuss the terms of your surrender. Commander Vex 9 stared at the human female who had just made herself comfortable in his command chair. Maya Cross looked remarkably relaxed for someone who had supposedly been imprisoned and tortured for 3 weeks. Too relaxed, he was beginning to realize. Surrender? Vex 9 managed to find his voice despite the growing certainty that everything he thought he knew about this situation was completely wrong. You are one individual against an entire research station. Even if you have somehow compromised our communications, you are still vastly outnumbered. Maya smiled, that same predatory expression she'd been wearing for days. Am I? Lieutenant Krell, would you mind checking your personnel roster? I'm curious to see how many of your colleagues are still functional. Lieutenant Krell's hands trembled as he accessed his data pad. His face went through several color changes as he scrolled through the information. Sir, we have 17 crew members listed as missing or incapacitated. When did this happen? Why weren't we informed? Because, Maya said conversationally, your people have been reporting everything as normal. They have been filing their regular status updates, maintaining their duty schedules, even participating in your daily briefings. The only problem is that they have been dead for the past 4 days. The temperature in the observation deck seemed to drop several degrees. Vex 9 felt his circulatory system constrict as the implications hit him. That's impossible. We have been seeing them, talking to them. Have you? Maya tilted her head with mock curiosity. Or have you been seeing carefully crafted holographic projections generated by your own security systems? Hearing pre-recorded voice samples compiled from months of communication logs? Interacting with sophisticated artificial intelligence constructs that I have been programming during my supposed captivity? She gestured casually toward the main display screen, which flickered to life showing security footage from throughout the station. Personnel moving through corridors, working at their stations, going about their daily routines. Everything appeared completely normal, until Maya touched another control, and the footage shifted to show the same locations from a different angle. Empty corridors, abandoned workstations, bodies. You see, Commander, the beautiful thing about advanced technology is that it can be turned against its creators quite easily, once you understand how it works. And I have had 3 weeks to study your systems in exquisite detail. Maya's voice carried a note of professional appreciation. Your security network is remarkably sophisticated. Your holographic projectors are top quality. Your artificial intelligence protocols are almost elegant in their complexity. She leaned forward in the command chair, her expression becoming more serious. But your personnel security is absolutely terrible. Did you know that Dr. Zenth 4 uses the same access code for his personal files, his laboratory equipment, and his quarters? Or that your chief engineer keeps backup authorization codes written on a datapad in his desk drawer? Lieutenant Krell was frantically checking more personnel reports, his panic growing with each entry. Sir, the entire engineering section is showing anomalous readings. Life support shows normal functions, but individual biometric monitors are all flatlined. 17 people, Maya continued in the same conversational tone, all eliminated over the course of 4 days, not through violence, you understand. Well, not entirely through violence. Mostly through their own stupidity and predictable responses to stress situations. She stood up from the command chair and began walking slowly around the observation deck, examining the equipment with apparent interest. Take Dr. Orth-5 from the chemistry lab, for instance. Brilliant researcher, terrible judge of character. When his laboratory's environmental controls began malfunctioning, he naturally assumed it was a technical problem. He spent hours trying to fix the atmospheric processes personally, never realizing that the gas mixture he was breathing had been gradually altered to include a mild neurotoxin. Vex 9 felt his primary heart skip several beats. You poisoned him. I gave him exactly what he needed to poison himself, Maya corrected with a smile. I simply provided the opportunity. Humans have a saying, give someone enough rope, and they will hang themselves. Your people seem to have an even greater talent for self-destruction than we do. She moved to the communication console and began manipulating controls with disturbing familiarity. Chief Security Officer Hax 3 was particularly entertaining. Very suspicious individual, always watching for signs of sabotage or infiltration. When he noticed some unusual activity in the computer network, he immediately began investigating personally. Very thorough, very methodical. He tracked the intrusion attempts all the way back to their source. Maya's fingers danced across the control interface with practiced precision. Unfortunately, the source turned out to be a feedback loop in the station's main computer core. A loop that generated a neural resonance frequency specifically calibrated to his species' brain patterns. He literally investigated himself to death. The casual way she described these deaths sent chills through Vex 9's entire being. This wasn't random violence or desperate survival instincts. This was systematic, calculated elimination carried out with the precision of a trained professional. Dr. Yen 7 from the Behavioral Psychology Division was fascinating to work with. Maya continued, now accessing what appeared to be personnel files on the main display, very confident in his ability to predict and manipulate subject responses. When I started exhibiting signs of what he classified as acute psychological breakdown, he naturally wanted to study the phenomenon more closely. She pulled up security footage showing a tall, thin alien entering what appeared to be a heavily secured laboratory. I convinced him that direct neural interface monitoring would provide the most accurate data on human psychological collapse patterns. Poor fellow was so excited by the research opportunity that he never questioned why I was suddenly so cooperative about participating in his studies. The footage showed Dr. Yen 7 connecting himself to a complex array of monitoring equipment, with Maya apparently restrained nearby. But as the recording progressed, it became clear that Maya was somehow manipulating the equipment settings while appearing to be helplessly confined. The beautiful thing about neural interface technology, Maya explained, is that it creates a direct pathway between minds, very useful for studying psychological responses, also very useful for introducing carefully crafted feedback loops that can cause permanent damage to higher brain functions. Lieutenant Krell was backing toward the exit, his weapon drawn but his hands shaking too badly to aim properly. "Sir, we need to evacuate immediately. We need to contact the fleet, request emergency assistance." "Oh, Lieutenant," Maya said without turning around, "I really wouldn't recommend trying to leave just yet. You see, there's been a slight problem with the station's docking bay. It seems the airlocks have developed a rather serious malfunction. They keep cycling open at random intervals, very dangerous for anyone trying to board or disembark." She gestured toward another display screen that showed the station's docking facilities. Multiple ships were visible, but they all appeared to be drifting powerless in space, their hulls breached in patterns that suggested systematic sabotage. Engineer Tox 9 was responsible for maintaining those systems, Maya said with apparent satisfaction. Very dedicated individual. When the docking bay's computer network started showing signs of infiltration, he personally supervised the security upgrades, spent days reconfiguring the airlock protocols to prevent unauthorized access. She activated playback of another security recording, this one showing a stocky alien working frantically at a computer terminal while warning lights flashed around him. Unfortunately, the new security protocols included some rather aggressive automated responses to perceived threats. When the system detected what it interpreted as hostile boarding activity, it activated emergency measures designed to prevent invasion. The recording showed the alien's growing confusion as his own modifications began turning against him. Blast doors sealing corridors, atmospheric vents releasing unknown gases, gravity fields fluctuating wildly throughout the docking bay. Poor Tox 9 spent his final hours trying to shut down the very security measures he had installed to protect the station. Quite ironic, really. He died trying to escape from his own improvements. Maya finally turned to face them, and Vex 9 saw something in her expression that made his blood run cold. This wasn't the look of a desperate prisoner who had somehow gotten lucky. This was the look of someone who had been planning this moment for much longer than 3 weeks. "You want to know the really funny part?" Maya asked, settling back into the command chair. "I volunteered for this assignment. Not because I believed in your cultural exchange program, but because I wanted to see your operation firsthand. I wanted to understand exactly how you have been conducting your experiments on my people." She activated another display screen, showing what appeared to be personnel files, hundreds of them, all human, all marked with designations like Subject 12 and Specimen 94 and Deceased minus Experiment concluded. 3,047 humans, Maya said quietly. "That's how many of my people you have tortured and killed over the past 50 years. 3,047 individuals with families, friends, dreams, hopes, futures, all sacrificed to satisfy your scientific curiosity." The display changed to show images of the victims, faces staring out from the screen with expressions of confusion, fear, desperation. Men and women of all ages, from colonies throughout human space. Each image was accompanied by detailed records of the experiments performed on them, the duration of their captivity, the manner of their eventual death. "The really impressive part," Maya continued, "is how you managed to keep it secret for so long, covering up disappearances, falsifying records, even eliminating witnesses when necessary. Very thorough work, very professional." She stood up again and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars beyond the station. "But you made one critical error in your calculations. You assumed that humans would remain ignorant of your activities indefinitely. You never considered the possibility that we might decide to conduct some research of our own." Vex 9 felt the last of his composure cracking. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I wasn't randomly selected from a mining colony, Commander. I was specifically chosen for this mission by people who know exactly what you are and what you have been doing. People who have been preparing for this moment for a very long time." Maya turned back to face them, and now her expression was completely serious. "My name is Maya Cross, and I'm a lieutenant colonel in the United Earth Military Intelligence Division. I have spent the past 5 years training for this assignment, learning your language, studying your technology, preparing for every possible scenario that might arise during my infiltration of your research network. The words hit Vex 9 like physical blows. Military intelligence. Infiltration. This hadn't been a capture at all. It had been a deliberately planned operation from the beginning. "Wait," Lieutenant Krell stammered, his voice cracking with growing panic. "If you are military intelligence, then this entire capture scenario was fabricated. The mining colony, the volunteer program, the cultural exchange, all carefully constructed cover stories," Maya confirmed with a cold smile. "We have been aware of your research network for approximately 8 years. It took us another 3 years to develop infiltration protocols sophisticated enough to penetrate your security measures without detection." She walked to another control console and began accessing files that displayed what appeared to be detailed intelligence reports. "The mining colony where you supposedly captured me? It's actually a classified military training facility. The volunteer program, a recruitment cover for intelligence operatives. The cultural exchange documentation, forged by our best specialists in xenological deception techniques." The scope of the deception was staggering. Vex 9 realized that every aspect of Maya's capture had been orchestrated by human intelligence services. They hadn't stumbled into this situation through accident or misfortune. They had walked directly into a trap that had been years in the making. Dr. Fell, too, from the Xenobiology Department, was particularly helpful in understanding your research methodologies, Maya continued, accessing another set of files. "Very talkative individual, especially after I convinced him that I was suffering from a rare neurological condition that required immediate study." She displayed footage of herself apparently convulsing while connected to monitoring equipment, with a tall alien frantically adjusting controls and recording data. "Amazing how eager your people become when they think they have discovered something unique." Dr. Fell, too, spent hours documenting what he believed were unprecedented human neural responses to extreme stress. The footage showed the alien becoming increasingly excited as Maya's apparent condition worsened. He was so focused on his readings that he never noticed her subtle manipulation of the equipment's calibration settings. Unfortunately for Dr. Fell, too, the neural feedback he was so carefully monitoring was designed to create a sympathetic resonance in any observer connected to the same monitoring network. He became so absorbed in studying my condition that he never realized he was developing the same symptoms himself. Maya's voice carried a note of professional satisfaction. The really elegant part was that he documented his own deterioration in real time, thinking he was observing purely human psychological responses. His final research notes provide fascinating insights into his species' neural vulnerability patterns. Lieutenant Krell was frantically trying to access his communication equipment, but every system he touched simply displayed error messages or remained completely unresponsive. "Sir, all external communications are blocked. Internal networks are showing cascading failures throughout the station. We are completely isolated." "Of course you are," Maya said calmly. "I have spent the past 3 weeks systematically compromising every communication system on this station. Not just blocking them, you understand, but actively controlling them. Every message you have sent to your superiors, every status report you have filed, every routine check-in with other facilities, all of it has been intercepted, modified, and retransmitted according to my specifications." She activated a display showing communication logs stretching back over 2 weeks, thousands of messages, all apparently routine operational traffic, but now highlighted to show the subtle modifications that had been made to each one. "Your superiors believe this station is operating normally," Maya explained. "They think your research is proceeding according to schedule. They have no idea that their entire network has been compromised, or that intelligence operatives have been gathering data on their operations for months." The implications were staggering. If human intelligence services had been monitoring and manipulating their communications for weeks, then the damage went far beyond this single station. Their entire research network could be compromised. "Dr. Quinn 8 from the Communications Division was instrumental in helping me understand your network protocols," Maya continued, seemingly reading his thoughts. "Very security-conscious individual. When he detected what appeared to be unauthorized access attempts in the communication system, he immediately began implementing additional protection measures." She displayed security footage showing an elderly alien working desperately at multiple computer terminals, his movements becoming increasingly frantic as various systems failed around him. The beautiful thing about security protocols is that they can be turned inside out quite easily if you understand their underlying logic structures. Dr. Quinn 8 spent his final hours trying to protect the very systems I was using to eliminate him. Maya walked back to the viewport and gestured toward the stars beyond the station. You see, gentlemen, every person on this station who might have been capable of detecting or stopping my activities has been systematically removed, not through random violence or lucky accidents, but through carefully planned operations designed to exploit each individual's specific psychological and technological vulnerabilities. She turned back to face them with an expression of clinical detachment that was somehow more terrifying than any display of anger would have been. I studied each of you for weeks before beginning my operations. I learned your routines, your habits, your fears, your weaknesses. I crafted specific scenarios designed to appeal to each person's professional instincts while leading them directly into situations they couldn't survive. The realization hit Vex 9 like a physical blow. You have been hunting us, one by one. This entire time, you have been systematically murdering my crew. I have been conducting research, Maya corrected with a cold smile, studying your species' behavioral responses under controlled conditions, documenting your psychological vulnerabilities, testing your adaptive capabilities when faced with unexpected threats. She gestured toward the displays, showing the various security recordings of her victims' final moments. Each death provided valuable data about your people's cognitive patterns, their decision-making processes, their capacity for recognizing and responding to danger. Very educational, really. The casual scientific tone in which she described these murders was perhaps the most chilling aspect of the entire situation. She was using their own methodology against them, treating them exactly as they had treated their human victims. The beautiful thing about your research protocols, Maya continued, is how thoroughly they document everything. Every experiment, every procedure, every result is carefully recorded and filed. I have had access to decades of data about your activities, your techniques, your findings about human psychology and physiology. She activated another display showing what appeared to be research databases containing thousands of files. All of that information has been very useful in developing countermeasures specifically tailored to your species' vulnerabilities. It turns out that detailed scientific data about torture techniques can be quite helpful when you are designing torture techniques of your own. Lieutenant Krell was now pressing himself against the exit door, his breathing rapid and shallow. "Sir, we have to get out of here. We have to warn the fleet, alert other stations." "Oh, Lieutenant," Maya said gently, "I'm afraid that's not going to be possible. You see, this conversation has been broadcasted live to every research station in your network for the past 18 minutes. She gestured toward the communication console, where multiple transmission indicators were showing active connections to dozens of facilities throughout the galaxy. 46 other stations have been watching everything that's happened here. They have seen the security footage of your colleagues' deaths. They have heard my explanations of how each elimination was accomplished. They have learned exactly how vulnerable their own operations really are. The scope of the psychological warfare was breathtaking. Maya hadn't just been eliminating the crew of this station. She had been demonstrating to the entire research network exactly how helpless they were against a properly trained and motivated human operative. "I imagine there's quite a bit of panic spreading through your organization right about now," Maya continued with apparent satisfaction. "Station commanders are probably checking their own security systems, reviewing their personnel rosters, wondering which of their colleagues might already be dead without their knowledge." She walked back to the command chair and activated what appeared to be a galaxy-wide communication network. Multiple screens showed dozens of facilities, each one displaying scenes of growing confusion and alarm as alien personnel struggled to verify the status of their operations. "The really beautiful part," Maya said, settling back into the chair, "is that they are all asking themselves the same question. If it happened here, could it be happening to us?" She smiled that predatory expression one final time, and the answer, of course, is yes. The main display screen shifted to show long-range sensor data. Dozens of ships, clearly human in design, were approaching each of the research stations simultaneously. The operation wasn't limited to a single facility. It was a coordinated assault on the entire network. You see, gentlemen, this was never just about rescuing one prisoner or gathering intelligence on your research program. This was about sending a message to every species in this galaxy that considers humans to be acceptable test subjects. The station shuddered as something impacted the hull. Then again, in a steady rhythm that suggested incoming weapons fire from the approaching human fleet. The message is simple, Maya continued as the impacts grew more frequent and more powerful. We know who you are. We know where you are. We know what you have done. And we are coming for all of you. Commander Vex 9 stared at the tactical display showing the approaching human fleet. 43 ships, all heavily armed, all moving with the precision and coordination of a military force that had been planning this operation for years. This is impossible, he whispered. Human technology isn't advanced enough for this kind of coordinated assault. Your people don't have the resources or the capability. Commander, Maya said gently, you have been studying us for 50 years, and you still don't understand the most fundamental truth about humanity. We are not just individuals. We are not just a species. We are a family. And when you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Critical systems throughout the facility were failing in cascade patterns. Life support, artificial gravity, structural integrity, all compromised simultaneously. When we learned what you were doing to our people, we didn't just get angry. We got organized. We got prepared. We got very, very patient. Maya's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. And now, we are here to collect what you owe us. The lights went out completely. Emergency power failed. The artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Through the observation deck's viewport, Vex 9 could see the approaching human fleet, weapons charging, moving into attack formation. 47 research stations, Maya said in the darkness. All of them are being visited today. All of them are receiving the same message. All of them are being shut down permanently. As if to emphasize her point, the communication screens throughout the observation deck began showing feeds from other stations under assault. Explosions, hull breaches, emergency evacuations, all happening simultaneously across the galaxy. Each facility has been assigned a dedicated task force, Maya explained, her voice carrying clearly through the chaos. Each task force includes specialists, trained specifically for operations against your particular species. Each assault has been planned down to the smallest detail based on intelligence gathered over years of careful observation. Commander Vex 9 felt his species' instinctive fear response, overwhelming his rational mind. This wasn't just revenge. This was systematic, coordinated, strategic destruction of an entire covert operation that had taken decades to establish. The Galactic Science Consortium's human research program, Maya announced as the station's hull began to buckle under the sustained assault, is hereby terminated, permanently. The final impact came with tremendous force, breaching the observation deck's hull and sending both Vex 9 and Lieutenant Krell tumbling toward the emergency bulkheads. As the atmosphere rushed out into space, the last thing Vex 9 heard was Maya Cross's voice, speaking with the satisfaction of someone who had just completed a very long, very difficult, and very successful mission. Experiment concluded. Results: total success. Human subjects demonstrate completed adaptive superiority when properly motivated and organizationally supported. Recommendation: avoid further testing. Her laughter followed them into the void as the station broke apart around them, each piece drifting away to join the debris field that had once been Research Station Omega 7. In the distance, the human fleet moved on to their next target, leaving nothing behind but wreckage and a very clear message about the consequences of underestimating Earth's children.